Hello there, cat people. Welcome to episode 26 and the season finale, the season 1 finale of the Shelter Cats podcast. Woohoo! I need sound effects. I'm so excited. I decided to make this the season finale because we have a very special guest and slightly different type of professional on today, but I found it interesting and I thought you'd want to hear about it too. So, this is my season 1 finale. I can't thank you enough for listening. I can't thank you enough for just supporting this little, what I call a labor of feline love. Thank you for everything, all my guests, all the people that have been on, that have listened, that have praised, that it's just been an awesome few months doing this basically from my phone and a pair of very good wired headphones. I'm going to take October off a little bit, and I already have some great guests lined up for season 2. And season 2, I'm hoping, will include video. So this is the season finale. I'm recording this in mid-August, but this will be coming to your ears and video on Sunday, October 1st. So then there won't be any episodes in October. And then first Sunday in November, we'll have season 2 of the Shelter Cats podcast, including videos. You'll get to see me and hear me as well. So, the Shelter Cats podcast is my labor of feline love. All about the shelter cats that have made a difference in my life, that have saved my life, and hopefully will serve as an inspiration to get you to adopt a shelter cat of your own. Adopt, don't shop. Right now, as I'm speaking to you in my Brooklyn Jewish guy smiley way of talking, I'm looking at my Mona. Mona's asleep on the couch. Mona was a kitten who was born somewhere in Westbury on the island, and she was a foster fail because she's just an amazing girl. She went from a scared little kitten to a beautiful adult tabby cat with beige markings and a big sunspot on her back, because she's got this big gray fur and it looks like a sunspot to me, and then beige all around it, so it just looks like a burst of sun. Right now there's a cat just like my Mona sitting in a shelter or a rescue or a foster situation right now, dreaming of going home with you and leaving their shelter life behind. So adopt, don't shop. Absolutely adopt, don't shop. As I'm recording this, there's a crisis with animal control in New York City and shelters all over the country where they are at an overcapacity. So the more you can adopt, the more you can foster, the more homeless cats can get a chance as well. So this is I'm just so excited about. I'm excited about everybody that I get to speak to, but I'm really excited because this is a slightly different take. But before that, I always want to make sure you know that I want to hear from you. I want to hear from everybody, whether you just have an amazing shelter cat like Yogi and Jasper, or if you do trapping, if you do fostering, if you own and run a shelter, if you run any kind of shelter, rescue, foster, adoption service, anything that has any part in finding homes for all the amazing shelter cats that are waiting for homes right now. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your story, and then I might have you on as a future guest in my season 2. So, I'm on the web, tylerthecat.com. You can email me, dan@tylerthecat.com. I'm on Facebook. The page is called Shelter Cats. I feature a lot of shelter cats thanks to Alley Cats Rescue, Taylor's Rescue. They post a lot of shelter cats that need homes. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok and Threads. Just search Shelter Cats Podcast. I'm on Twitter. My personal is Dan Tract. The page is Shelter Cats POD, Shelter Cats Pod. I'm on YouTube. Also just search Shelter Cats, because starting with episode 19, I'm posting videos of the audio of the episode, just so that people could find them on YouTube as well. So the podcast is also in video form on YouTube. So you want to put YouTube on your TV, and just have it play through your TV, you can. There's just endless possibilities to find me. And I TikTok every couple of days. I Instagram every day. There's always something being posted on the Facebook page. So plenty of places to see amazing shelter cats, pictures of mine, and plenty of ways to reach out to me because I want to hear from you. So today's guest, I have Kelly. Kelly is the owner and founder of Professional Pet Trackers. She's based in or on Long Island? In Long Island? On Long Island. I think I'm supposed to say on Long Island. And she left a life in exotic cars behind to find lost pets, lost cats, lost dogs that, you know, again, as I said in my conversation with her, no judgment. Stuff happens. Sometimes accidents happen and your dog or your cat get lost. What do you do? What would you do? You post flyers. You ask people around the neighborhood. You post on social media. Maybe you call the police or you call local shelters. But now you have Kelly. Her website is professionalpettrackers.net. She's also on Facebook. Just search Professional Pet Trackers. You'll be able to message her. Her phone number is there, professionalpettrackers.net. And she has dogs. Her staff are dogs, and they work with scent, and they find your lost pets for you. And she tells an amazing story that involves a storm drain on a highway on the island called Sunrise Highway, if you're not on Long Island, and how she found a lost cat. Just finding out how she got started in this and what she does and how she does it is just amazing. It's amazing that there's a service like that out there that can do this, that can help people, because flyers on poles around the street and asking your neighbors, let's be honest, can only go so far. But having somebody nose to the ground, literally and figuratively, that the dog picks up the scent of your lost pet, and like Lady and the Tramp, where old Trusty ran out and rescued the tramp from the dog catcher at the last minute. This is what pops in my head. I'm weird. It's just an amazing service. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Kelly of Professional Pet Trackers. Enjoy. Hi, Kelly. Hello? Kelly, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Kelly,
There we go.
I hear you. Can you hear me? How are you?
And now I can't.
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Welcome. I sound like a cell phone commercial. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to my little podcast, and you're my season finale.
Well, thank you. Is this live?
No, you're recording. This will be
Okay.
at a later day. I wouldn't do this live.
Okay,
No,
good.
I would never put anyone through that.
Yeah, not a good thing for me, just so you know.
No, I totally understand.
You might
So,
need some bleeps, okay?
listen, you can, if you want to curse. I'm from Brooklyn. Please just be yourself.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you, by the way, for even wanting to talk to me. I think it's cool.
Oh, of course. I'm friends with Alicia, and she said, "Oh, you have to talk to Kelly. You have to talk to Kelly." I turned to her for all my advice.
Yeah,
So the whole season, you're episode 26. I've most of the season I've spoken to a lot of people that have done that, from trappers to feeders to fosters to shelters on the island to shelters in the city and Philadelphia.
cool.
Even Utah. You're the first person who has a slightly different angle. You correct me if I'm wrong. You find them if they get lost.
Yes, with search dogs, with trained canines.
So please tell me, I guess, introduce yourself, curses and all, and tell me I guess what tell me about you and how you got into this like particular niche of
Yeah, nice and easy. I'll make it simple. Years ago, I have two cats named Frankie and Tony, and my little Italians. And Tony went missing. He didn't come home one night. At the time, they were indoor outdoor. They are no longer indoor outdoor. And Tony did not come home. Side note, they are Bengal mixes, so they're obnoxiously vocal. So I would hear them coming, every night. They would be hollering, coming around corners or whatever. And I only heard Frank. So lo and behold, just under 3 weeks of searching and finding people that do what I do, completely out of state, far away. Nobody wanted to come to New York, or they couldn't come to New York for another week or two. Um, I actually found my cat. Thank
and
God.
and how did you find your cat?
I did what I tell 99.9% of the people not to do. Um, Mainly because different circumstances, different scenarios. Because I have his brother and they are completely bonded. I mapped out on like a satellite view of where I was living at the time, like a quarter-mile circle around my house. I drew it out, and then like I drew like an asterisk with my house being in the center of both. And I sprinkled his brother's dirty litter throughout this whole thing that I drew out. I did it
Interesting.
like 2 in the morning because I certainly didn't want my neighbors to see me. Um,
Yeah, you might have gotten a few looks. Yeah,
yeah, I did. I definitely did. Like as I was army crawling throughout that almost 3 weeks time. So,
three
um, you know,
weeks. Wow.
almost just under 3 weeks. So I did this at like 2 in the morning, and you got to figure out the animal's bond, I guess, what they're closest with. And I had his brother, so his brother's smell was going to help him fight if he could, because at the time we got like four nor'easters in a row. So I'm thinking, he's outside, crushed, as dramatic as it sounds, right, under a tree that fell because of the heavy snow. And
Right. Right.
so I'm thinking he's hurt, and I just haven't been able to find him anywhere. And I figured like the smell of his brother would put him into that fight mode opposed to that flight mode. It did. Um, he was locked in someone's basement the whole time.
Oh
I
my
laughed.
God.
Yeah, unknown to the homeowner. Um, there were three people and two dogs that lived in this house, and nobody knew he was down there. The crazy part is that I was in the house not once but twice while he was down there. I'm not soft spoken. He heard me, but they're in that survival mode. And if a cat's nervous, they don't want to be seen or heard, and
Right.
they can go completely undetected. But the smell of his brother, like the constant presence of the smell of his brother, opposed to, we were only 7 houses away, so he could smell home from where he was. But putting his brother's litter everywhere made him feel a bit more brave, I guess is the best way to put it.
Wow.
So this poor guy comes home for his lunch break, and he thinks that somebody's inside of his house, like smashing things. It was my cat. Um, he opened up the basement door, and there were shelves knocked over, like paint cans were splattered everywhere. And Tony ran out the house and came home.
And that was his last major outing. I hope.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was for the both of them. They are now indoor cats. And the second he got home, it took me a good like week, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a search dog.
So, so you use. Tell me how that works. I'm a mental case with with my doors. I have five cats. Two of mine over 25 years got out once, but they went as far as by the front door, and they're like, "Fuck this! I want back in."
Yep.
Um,
And that's normal, but sometimes people don't know when they get out. So then the cat gets nervous. And I mean, indoor only cats really do not travel far. But with regards to the search dog, they the same concept as imprinting a search dog on live human odor, or drugs, or bombs, or cancer, for that matter.
Right.
They have service dogs that can indicate to a diabetic if their sugar is too high or too low, or if someone's about to have a seizure. It's all about odor. So whatever odor you imprint the dog on, that's their odor. That's what they're going to start, learning how to track for. And just like fingerprints, right? We each have our own unique fingerprint. Every living being has their own individual stink. It's just as unique as like I said, the fingerprints with human scent. When you see a search dog looking for a missing child, or a senior with dementia, for that matter. Same concept. You give me something of your missing pets, and my dogs will get their commands to smell it and look for it.
That's
And we follow the dog on lead. And listen, it's not as easy as it sounds. Most cats, or dogs for that matter, don't sit there and wave a flag because you brought in a search dog. If it was that easy, I'd be retired. It's not that easy, but the concept of it is, they follow footsteps. That's what tracking is. It's following a direction of travel.
so the adventure with your Italian cats, Italian Bengal cats. I've never heard
Yeah.
that. So you from that you started an entire business.
I did, and I didn't know I was going to be honest with you. I at one point I think my mom was going to have me committed. Um, I worked for many, many years in high-end cars. Like the real unobtainable stuff: Bentleys, Rolls Royce, Lamborghinis, and I was doing very well. And I told her I was going to spend a boatload of money on a dog, and she was like, "You're going to do what?" I'm like, "Yeah, but Ma, I'm going to help people find their lost pets." And she was like, "Oh dear God." But like when you could feel something in your belly and you just know it's right.
Yes.
I just felt it. And don't get me wrong, I had my doubts. I was nervous. I wasn't just quitting my job and doing this. Like, I didn't know if I was going to end up having a very expensive dog pet. Is he just going to be a really expensive pet dog, or is this going to actually, work? And I was working full time at the time, and I started doing it, little bits, dribs and drabs here, and I was hooked. It was,
Is
I spent some time down in Virginia, there's a gentleman down in Virginia who is certified to train police and military dogs. He is the one who obtained my first two dogs, trained them for me, trained me,
wow.
and after my very first job, it was I was in love. Like, to have a real purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's
it was
amazing.
amazing. And the best part about it, besides the fact, and yes, finding the lost pet is obviously the whole point of it, right? But to watch my dog be so proud of what he's doing, saying it just now, it gives me goosebumps. They love what they do, and it's amazing. It's beautiful.
What describe that? What is that? How do they look? What are they wagging their tail?
Every
Are,
dog has a different language.
how do you know
Every
that they're
dog.
loving their job?
How do I know that they're loving their job?
Like, what do they do that you're like, yep,
Oh, because
he's in the
so
zone?
when I prep the dog for work, when I get about 5 minutes away from the job, I start whoever I have with me. I'll use Enzo because he's my OG, my original gangster. He's my favorite, and that's that. I don't have a problem saying that out loud. Um, so Enzo, you ready to go to work? And he starts howling. They love it. If they didn't get amped up, then they shouldn't be doing what they do.
That's great.
It's
That's
amazing. It
awesome.
really is. And they know when they're working, first off, whichever dog is working, they get home, they get a pound of steak. So that high reward keeps them motivated.
I
That
want this job.
praise, yeah, right? They eat better than I do.
Yeah,
I'm telling
I've
you.
I've had a pound of steak in a very long time.
Listen, I got a cabinet full of ramen, but the dogs get steak.
Yeah, are you hiring?
You know, it's the praise, it's the reward, it's everything. And like, I mean, Enzo specifically, like I said, they all have different languages. Every dog does something different when they're getting close to target, um, or when scent is lost for that matter. They all do different things. Um, it's knowing how they're talking to you. That's the hard part. And you do maintenance work with them regularly. As Enzo gets older, for example, his body language has changed. Things change. If you're not constantly doing maintenance work with them, you don't know what they're saying.
How old are they?
Enzo is a little over 7. I have 5 dogs, actually.
5.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of them.
And they're all trained to do that, to do tracking.
3 of them are full-time employees, and 2 of them are in training. Enzo will be retiring soon, which kind of kills me a little bit. But either way, I've got his son being one of them coming up into the roster soon, and then
Interesting.
another one.
Does he get to spend his retirement with you?
Of course, he will never leave me.
And he'll stay on salary, I assume,
Oh, of course.
with with the stakes.
Absolutely.
So how do so obviously I'm picturing like an old school private eye office where you're sitting there with the dogs and somebody comes in, I've lost my pet. But I obviously that's not how it works. I mean, I wish, can you do
No, they
that
all
that
live
way?
in my house. They live in my house. I have a dog room. It's really their house. It's not mine. Um, and my cell phone is on 24/7, and I have to turn the ringer off usually at night because sometimes people don't find out about me until 2 in the morning,
Right.
and they're blowing my phone up, but often enough they don't realize it's my cell phone. And I don't blame them because they're worried sick.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But that's why I do it, because I know how they feel.
So what is the process? I mean, unless there's a secret sauce you don't want to divulge,
There's no secret sauce.
what's the process exactly? Somebody loses their pet and they find out about you. How does it work?
So there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of people don't realize that. Sometimes people will call me when their pet's missing for months, and that's a lot of time. There's a lot of things that can contaminate odor.
Right.
Um, can't always take jobs on because too much time is out. Um, or someone will call me about a stray that they feed in their backyard. I don't have a scent article to work with. Oh, but they sleep on my cushion all the time. My lounge chair. And I'm like, yeah, but what else steps on that? What other animals? So those situations people don't realize, like, I need clean scent.
Right.
A multiple pet household, like you had said, you had some cats, right?
Yes, I do. I have
So
5.
I could very easily, God forbid, knock on wood, say one of them gets out. The only thing I would need you to do is have the other 4 in individual carriers. And if your search dog has the ability to do what's called scent elimination, you basically tell the search dog, not those guys sitting there, the other one. They use their nose the way that we use our eyes. So if
Okay.
I show you a picture of 5 cats and I tell you just one is missing, but I do not decipher for you which one that is, you're going to be looking for 5 cats. But if I point out to you which one you need to look for, it's going to be a lot easier, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
So it's the same concept. These guys are here. Get a whiff of them all, and then they know. All right, I know the missing odor, just like we do with our eyes.
And
It's pretty
then
impressive. But if you really think about it, and with the eyes to nose comparison, it makes sense because that's how most animals see the world, is through their nose.
Like for example, I'm looking at Mona, who's passed out on the couch right now. She she's not going anywhere. She has her own bed that nobody sleeps in. Would that be something that
That is exactly what I would use. Now, granted, is it possible that another guy walked across it, or when you vacuum it, or just you touching it, one piece of fur or dander can contaminate a scent article? When there's a multiple pet household, there is no such thing as an uncontaminated scent article, which is why we always need all of the other animals present and contained.
okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
And then is there a radius? I guess so. Now you've imprinted the scent of missing animal on Enzo, Enzo the baker. Sorry, I just lapsed into the Godfather. Or
Enzo Ferrari, if you really want to know what he's named after,
uh,
but okay.
so their last names are after exotic cars. Cool. I'm thinking mafia movie. You're thinking car, but that makes sense given your
Same
background.
difference. It's Italian.
Given your back, I want lasagna now. I don't after this conversation, but um, but so then what happens next? Is there like a radius that you just start scoping the neighborhood?
I don't do anything but hold on. I hold on to the lead. I read the dog. I see when they start to fixate. If I've got, you know, a contained, say, underneath the shed. Cats are always underneath sheds, okay? I will pull back. I'll throw the dog in the car. If I could yoke the cat out, I can. If we need to bribe the cat out, then that's what we have to do. Every yeah, she listens. Um, every circumstance is different, but if you know your dog, if your dog is good at their job, you know when you're getting close to scent.
Interesting.
You should never, unless you've got a still or contained target, you don't ever want a lost pet to feel like they're being chased.
Okay,
So you pull back. I always have the owners with me. It's a priority because a lost pet is most likely not going to go to a stranger
that makes
and a
sense.
dog. So I always have the owner with me. Often, specifically with cats, it could take some time. Like I'm working on a cat in Jersey right now that has been missing since July 2nd. And I have movement every time I go, and we get confirmed visuals every time we go. But the cat is literally evading everything we do. We're going to get her, but she's in a very unique environment. They live on a lake, fireworks every weekend. We've had wicked thunderstorms. They had a drowning with helicopters overhead. They had boat races this past weekend. It's a very active area. So this poor cat is terrified. So it takes some time.
Wow,
Yeah.
so you'll go off the island,
Oh, I travel tri-state, yes.
tri-state. Okay, cool. And so, how long have you been in business? When did you leave cars and do this full time?
Um, I started this in 2018.
Okay.
Um, Full time, 19.
And how many lost pets have you found in that time?
I have no idea.
Take a guess. My listeners will believe you.
I don't. I'm going to answer this, and it's going to sound terrible, and I'm going to include deceased ones because or animals that have
Yeah.
been subject to predators. Like, you leave the island, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like hundreds, hundreds, alive ones, deceased ones. Like it's
Yeah, that part didn't occur to me that sometimes you find them and unfortunately,
often, like I said, you leave the island, you know, and I'll never understand it, and it kills me. You have small dogs, you have cats, and you live where there's coyote and bobcats. Like, what are
yeah.
you doing leaving them outside alone? Like, it's so risky. And people are always like, oh, they're not going to come that close. And Sure they are, because they're scoping everything. This is what they do. They're scavengers.
Yeah.
You know, I have a friend. She lives out of state. She has two Dutch Shepherds, which are award-winning dock diving dogs. They are athletes, okay? About 70-ish pounds. I have a Dutchie. She's about 64 pounds. She's one of my workers. They are full, like 0 to 100 dogs, okay? There's no in between with the Dutchies. They're crazy. Her two dogs got attacked by a pack of coyote.
Oh God.
But I'm talking athletes, okay? Like athletes. And they got really messed up. And the only reason they survived is because they're athletes. They are award winning dogs. People forget, like, they'll go after big dogs too. They're not prejudiced to size. They don't care.
Yeah.
They go after deer. Well, why can't they take a big dog? People don't think about things like that. So, yes, predators and, coming across skeletons and tufts of fur.
Ugh.
It's horrible. And I'm telling you, like, it's the worst part of my job. However, I would rather at least give somebody closure opposed to them never knowing what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Closure is important. But when you find them and they're okay, and then you reunite them with the pets, and
That's why I do what I do right there.
hopefully you play the Peaches and Herb song each time. If not, maybe you should consider it, because now that's completely ringing in my head, and I hate that song. But me. But that must be the most.
It's
That must be
amazing.
the best feeling ever, is when they're reunited and you just sit there going, "Good job, guys,"
That's
Enzo and
it. I'm so proud of them. I am proud of my dogs every day. It's Enzo, Sonia, Maggie, Dino, and Eleanor.
those are awesome names. Dino and Eleanor.
And
Those are
Eleanor.
those are great names.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's
They're good
awesome.
kids. They're great. They really are.
And you've gotten them all from that one source you said in Virginia?
Well, I guess you could say yes. Because, well, with exception to one, hold on. So Enzo came to me from Virginia. Then my first summer, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is actually a lot of work. I don't want to overwork my dog. So I called him up and I said, I need another. And he said, okay. And while he had Sonia, there was an oops. So Sonia came to me expecting a litter.
Wow.
So I kept one, and that's where Maggie came from. And then Sonia got fixed. And then Maggie and Enzo had a litter. Maggie and Enzo had a litter, and that's Dino.
They're
Had to think about that for a second.
they're a very friendly staff.
And then Maggie got fixed. Now, I stress got fixed because a lot of people stress to not have your dogs not fixed, which is why I'm stressing that. So most of them indirectly came from Virginia, I guess is the best way to put it, because
Okay.
in Virginia, that's where Maggie's dad is. Maggie's dad is the trainer's dog, who is a remarkable, remarkable working dog. Um, and then Miss Eleanor over here, Peyton Safe Haven. This girl Taryn, who runs Peyton Safe Haven Rescue in Jersey, pulled Eleanor out of the NYC ACC when she was 3 months old.
Awesome.
And it's something I always wanted to do, to be able to rescue a dog and give them a purpose. But it's risky, because what if they don't have any work ethic? And you know, it's what I do. So she actually let me evaluate her for a couple months,
Oh,
and Eleanor
nice.
never left my house.
My fifth cat he's a 13-year-old from ACC.
Okay.
He's my third and last foster fail. So he was hours away from you know what, and
Yep.
Alley Katz, whom I know, and they've
I'm
been on.
familiar. I'm familiar.
Sonia from there. She's one of my friends who knows them. Reached out to me. Please look at his face, please. And he's a 13-year-old kitten. He's a complete like
Aww.
he's a total. He's awesome. My cats love him. So I know of the feeling of pulling.
There's a little extra love, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they're
what would have happened to you?
he was 2 hours away, and he's the most appreciative,
He knows you saved
thankful,
him. He knows it.
thankful cat, and all mine are rescues, so they just appreciate him. They're like, yeah, you've been through some shit, man, but we love you. Um, so I know Eleanor's story. I understand that very much because I look at him like I could not imagine life without you. It's like he's been here the whole 13 years.
It's crazy. It's crazy because like I look at her and I'm like, what would have happened to you?
Yeah, and especially now, I just ju-
I
just
know.
I just interviewed 3 New York City rescues. They're on this week's episode. We're recording in mid-August, and as soon as like days after I finished recording with them, ACC stopped taking in because they're full, and it just went from bad to worse.
I know. It's I. You know what? Every shelter at one point or another gets a bad rap. But could you imagine? And I'll never condone. You know,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
never condone it. I'll never support it. But sometimes I do understand it. It's terrible, but there are, and I could say this with dogs, cats are very different, but there are some dogs that, fighting dogs, used for bait that you can't touch.
I
And
know,
I
I know what you mean.
know the ACC gets a lot of these violent that they're never going to be able to be handled by a human. And it's horrible, but they get overwhelmed with things like that people it's terrible. It's heartbreaking because I don't understand why they do certain things. I watched a video yesterday about how drugged this dog was that came out of the shelter that was going to a rescue, and like, was that necessary? That kills me, but maybe it was. I don't know.
Yeah,
They all get bad raps, but we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I try not to judge because judgment is just, unless you know firsthand, it's not cool. It's just not.
no, and as sad as it sounds, we can't save them all. Just like you, sometimes you,
I don't get there in time all the time. No, sometimes I'm too late. Sometimes something horrible already happened. I can't save them all.
but at least
None
you're
of us
able
are
to.
God.
I like that you're at least sometimes able to give people closure because, God forbid, if I was ever in that situation, and obviously I would call upon you, and in a minute I'm going to make sure people know how to find you. I would at least want to have closure because not having that closure would definitely eat at me.
Well, the unknown is the worst feeling in the world. I would rather know than not.
Just the guilt or just the what I could have. Every pet I've lost in my entire life, you're always racked with guilt. I could have done more. I could have
Woulda,
handled it
shoulda,
this
coulda,
way.
right?
But
You can't
especially
change
if, God forbid, somebody gets out. I mean, I'm never opening my door again after this conversation. But just gonna have like a slot to have food slipped in, or
it.
I could live on Uber Eats for the rest of my life. I don't need to ever go. I
I
work
mean,
from home.
make a skylight and climb out the roof.
Do I ever need? I don't ever need to go anywhere. Yeah, that's a great life I'll lead. Of a complete hermit who just who is this? Who is this Dan who does podcasts? We've never seen him.
He's just worried about his cats. Don't mind him.
This he's not real. He's AI. He's not even a real person. But so how do people find you? Again, I'm picturing the private eye office from the old movies in the 40s, and you're in like a trench coat and a hat. How can I help you? See, but please do that. Please have an office and like all the desks, all your dogs that are around
Are
desks.
at desks
And
with like a
answer
pencil in their hair
with
and
a pencil in their ear. They're answering the phone. But in actuality, how do people find you? Because if you've ever if God forbid you ever lose your pet, please reach out to Kelly. But how do they find you?
Facebook. I have a website, a phone number, but it's just word of mouth. And this is going to sound crazy. In 6 years, I've never spent $1 on advertising, with exception to my website hosting. Like that,
Right.
it's word of mouth. It's the people who I have helped when they see somebody else in need, you got to call her. And that's it.
Yeah, and
Listen,
that's
I'll
how
be
I
honest. Like July, for example, is the worst time of year, and I hate to say this, but it's the reality. I turn down more people than I take on.
the worst as in the busiest time of year.
Busy with fireworks, 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 fireworks. It's the worst time of year for lost pets.
More dogs than cats, or
No, it's pretty even.
pretty even.
It's pretty even. It's horrible. People tend to, with dogs, because if you have an indoor outdoor cat, people generally will keep them in, like during July 4th and Halloween and New Year's. But dogs still have to go outside and use the bathroom and go for walks. Cats can use a litter box, right? So,
That's why cats are better.
well, listen, and this is something I tell people all the time. A lot of people, when they first call me with lost cats, and this is really what I would love to focus on a little bit, if that's okay with you,
Please, please.
with lost
This
cats.
this is your show.
I tell people, and this may sound a little cocky, and I certainly don't mean it that way. It's just an example. Like my dogs, right? They're really smart. They're so intelligent. They're so smart. They not only pay my mortgage, but they pay every other bill that comes into my home. But dogs are dumb in comparison to cats when it comes to survival.
I shouldn't be laughing, but I
It's the
understand what you
truth.
mean.
It's the truth. I can say this, and it's my livelihood. I say this confidently, and it is my livelihood. Cats are so smart. They are so independent, so self sufficient, so capable. People get so worried, and I remind them, just give them a little bit of time. I probably get more cats home over the phone by just simply guiding people than I do tracking.
Interesting.
I speak to multiple cat owners a day. And I will say 9.5 out of 10 people that I talk to, I never end up going to work for.
Interesting.
Yep.
So does that mean it's harder to find a lost dog because they're
No, dogs are
idiot?
just dogs. Like, how often do you see a cat running down the LIE in the middle of rush hour traffic? But you certainly see huskies running down the LIE in the middle of traffic. Dogs are a little like doo-doo-doo.
No, you definitely have a point.
Cats hide. Cats know how to go under the radar. And don't get me wrong, dogs do as well. And there are some dogs that I've worked on for months that there were no sightings whatsoever. And every time I tracked, I had movement, I had motion, where the owners thought I was bonkers. Well, how come nobody's seen the dog? I worked on a Great Dane mix in Farmingdale this past year that was running up and down the Bethpage State Parkway near Farmingdale Village. Like, this was a big dog. There was not one sighting. I worked on this dog for about a month, not one sighting. And I think the owner thought I was like batshit crazy. I'm like, no, he's still moving. He's in motion. I've got motion. I've got new movement every time I'm here. We finally got him. But dogs can go under the radar as well. It's just cats are just better at it. They're just better at it.
Do you recommend that people put like my friend? I helped her get a cat, and she tried to put an air tag on a collar. Do you recommend that
Of
people
course.
get
Of
uh,
course. And they can put me out of business technically, but of course. Nothing is foolproof.
Right.
I worked on a cat New Year's Day this year that was wearing an air tag. And the last ping that the owner got, and I was upfront with her, I did not like the way it sounded, was in the middle of Sunrise Highway in West
Ay,
Islip.
ay, vey.
And I was like, Jessica, did you look for a body? Straight up. And she was like, of course I did.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not stupid, you know? But I'm like, okay. So lo and behold, very long story short, and I don't know if you remember, but like right before New Year's, it was frigid. It was freezing.
Yes.
Very, very, very cold temperatures. And then New Year's Eve on the 30th, we got torrential rain.
I remember.
And the ground was frozen. So Pete, the cat, hunkered down somewhere. Pete the cat was in the water drain system underneath Sunrise Highway. And that's why the last ping was in the middle of Sunrise Highway, because he must have been right underneath it when a car passed to be able to grab a cell signal.
Oh, okay.
Okay? But then it went dark. So when I was working Sonia on this case, and so tracking, noses on the ground, her head was up the whole time while I'm working. I'm like, this is just weird, because this is not her style. Enzo does a lot of air scenting, but Sonia's a nose on the ground girl. But her head was up, with exception to every single time we stepped over the water drain grates. Her face planted the grates, and I'm like, Pete's in the freaking drain system.
Interesting.
Yep. And because most of the grates were full because of the frozen ground and the rain, the water was not as quick as it usually would. He couldn't get out because he was literally every like way that, you know how like when you look on the curbs, like there's space
Yep.
where they can go in and out, they were all full. So he was in the middle, basically in like the Clover area and like in between Sunrise Highway, and everything else was filled with water. He couldn't get out.
So,
We were sticking our cell phones down to try and get his signal to ping him. And I was on one end, like crawling in the water to get my cell phone close. And all of a sudden I hear screaming, I hear him pinging.
oh my
And
God.
yeah. So her dad had actually called Roto-Rooter. And they came. And I tried. I had a crowbar, but I'm little. I tried to pick the grate up. I couldn't. So Roto-Rooter came and they pulled the grate up. And she jumped down there and she snatched him up.
Jesus.
It was actually on Channel 12 News when it
That's
happened.
right. That's right.
Yeah, it was pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
It was pretty cool.
Awesome. Awesome. When you said
So
Sunrise Highway, you know what I thought. So that's an awesome, happy ending.
it's amazing. It was amazing. So yes, I always recommend the air tags. And as I was saying, nothing is 100% foolproof. Even search dogs. Even search dogs. A little dog that was lost in Huntington, and I couldn't find recent odor because the dog was burrowing underneath the ground in like the woodchuck or groundhog holes.
Okay. I've never
But
heard
he was
that.
in there. He was in there 2 days after I had left. The neighbor heard the dog howling and dug him out. So whether it's an air tag or a search dog, like I said before, I'm not God. Thing is 100%. That goes
Obvious.
into finding and containing a lost pet. Nobody's perfect. Nothing is perfect. You know, you could put all the flyers in the world up, but go back to that big dog in Farmingdale. All the flyers in the world. There was not one sighting. Flyers are great. Search dogs are great, but nothing is everything.
I guess the best advice is, do your best not to let them get out. Just keep them safe. Keep the doors closed.
Listen, accidents are called accidents for a reason. They're not done on purpose. But there are enough people, no matter what you do, whether it's search dogs or trapping or even volunteers that just help people hang flyers. The world, and I learned this from personal experience as well, truly comes together when it comes to a lost pet. I changed my life for it, like I changed my whole life.
The fact that you gave up that career, um, no offense, Ferraris have never done anything for me. Um, my dad had a Range Rover in the '90s. It was the world's worst car, but the world's most comfortable car. I rarely stayed awake, and it rarely stayed out of the shop. But
Yeah, yeah.
but I digress. That you gave up that, like, talk about a left turn from
Yeah.
doing that to crawling on the crawling in the sewers of the
You
Sunrise
have
Highway
no idea,
to
okay?
find Pete the cat. That is an amazing. That's why I wanted to have you on the show, because yes, TNR is important. Adopting is important. The people that run these shelters, that
Everybody has something to do with helping them.
you know
It's amazing.
that I interviewed somebody who founded the Cat Collaborative in Philadelphia. She had a government job, and
Right.
she retired early, and she founded this because she just noticed how many homeless cats there were where she lives in
Oh,
Philadelphia, and just founded this, and they've TNR'd 5,000 cats in a year and a half.
wow.
Because they have this amazing infrastructure, and and they just they're able to get grants, and they do a great job. But that's the thing. Just a complete, like, you see a need, a need, and you have these amazing Italian dogs, and they just do. The fact that story was great. I'm so glad you told that story.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
And thank you for what you do. I'm sure there'll be plenty of other sewers you'll be crawling into to find lost cats and dogs, and you'll be doing it. You'll be doing it 24/7. I'm not going into what this costs, because it's
It's
not
all
about.
different. It's travel, it's time,
Yeah,
it doesn't it is what it is.
that's between you and your clients,
Yep.
because I don't I care that you do this, and it's obviously very rewarding for you. The dogs get a pound of meat out of the deal, so that's their salary. So everybody gets some sort of reward out of it.
Yep.
Obviously, it's when you've lost your pet, there's money is no object. That would certainly be for me. I
I
wouldn't
mean, and you
care.
know what? Some people, the way that I look at it, and the way I have to look at it is, if one of my animals get injured, going to an emergency vet is going to cost more than what I
Yes.
charge. Okay. So if you have a pet and you have an emergency, I'm part of that emergency. And believe me, the time and the the physical abuse that I go through,
Yeah.
it's worth
Just
it.
every time you're on the sun, if you're driving on the Sunrise Highway or the LAE, every time you see a storm drain, she might be in there right now, looking for another Pete the cat, or
I might be under you right now.
or another Marley the Great Dane. Just think of that. She might be there with Enzo the baker, or Eleanor Rigby, or any of her staff, looking for your lost pet. So
It's so
professional pet
funny.
trackers, find them on Facebook, find them on the web. If you're anywhere in the tri-state area, ask your friends. They probably know about you. If you've unfortunately lost your pet, and no judgment, shit happens, mistakes happen.
They
They
do.
they get out. My first cat, the door was open half an inch for 3 seconds before I could pull the screen door closed, and he's like, "Let's see what the world is like."
Yep, they can turn into liquid real quick, right?
Slipped out the door. I'm like, "What the?" He
Yep.
got as far as the bush by my living room window, and he's like, "Fuck this! I'm going back in." And that happened with two of my cats, but not
You
all
got
of them are
lucky.
not all of them are such wimps about being outside. So
Right.
if unfortunately you've lost your pet, got out, no judgment, go find Kelly. She will crawl up, down, anything. I'm not being sarcastic. There's no sewer too big or too small. She will find. She will go above and beyond. Her dogs go above and beyond because there's stake involved. They will go and do what they have to do, and she will find them. So thank you so much. This has
Thank
been
you.
really like I've never heard of this.
Neither did I until I lost my cat. So, yeah.
It didn't occur to me. I would just put up flyers and be miserable. It didn't occur to me that there's a professional service. You provide a service. There's actually a professional service that can do this.
Yes,
So
sir.
thank you for giving up the fancy, overpriced, overrated cars. I mean, honestly, 200,000, I could barely fit in them, and they're so low to the ground. I sound like my father. And yellow. Who? All right. Why would you
No, I'm a
spend?
white girl. I'm a white car girl. I am a
Thank you.
white
White,
car
red,
girl.
black, blue. Why would you spend $200,000, $300,000 on a yellow
I'm
something?
not sure. People do it all the time,
And it
though.
looks like an insect. Why?
Skittles.
Why?
Skittles, like Skittles. They just
Yeah,
look orange, yellow. Skittles. That's what they remind me of.
yeah. Get a red one. If you're getting a Lamborghini, get it in red. God damn it. Okay.
Listen, I know. I'm with you. I'm white. It's all white. I love white cars.
Yeah, white. It's the way God intended it. Not don't buy yellow cars. And if you lose your pets, go find Kelly at Professional Pet Trackers. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And I'll have you on next season. And I'm having video next season, so you might actually have to.
I might have to do my makeup and wash my hair, is what you're saying?
No, or just have your staff on, and they'll do the talking.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you so much. You be well. I'll speak to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Dan the Catman is back. How are you? Well, there you have it. That is a wrap on season 1 of the ShelterCast podcast. I started out, I still don't know what I'm doing, to be completely honest. I need to be able to edit better, and I really do want to record these on video and get them on YouTube so we have the widest possible audience. But I'll get there. I say this all the time. It's about the cats. It's not about me. Right, Sophie? Right, Sophie? Sophie's looking at me. Thank you so much for all your support for this season 1. I'm not looking to make a penny out of it, which reminds me, you can support me on Spotify and Patreon. I will be adding Patreon specific episodes for my season 2 run. So go on Spotify, look for the dollar symbol. Patreon, just search Shelter Cats. I will be taking October off. However, I will still be blogging. You can go to Medium, sheltercats.medium.com, or just go on medium.com and search for ShelterCats. I'll still be sending out blogs, even if they're, slightly edited reblogs. There'll still be blogs going out, but there will be no episodes in October, so that I could take a few weeks off and retool and come up with new and improved episodes with video, hopefully, fingers crossed, for season 2. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your support, for listening, for just making this it evolved from me talking about my cats and reading old blog posts to me just meeting and talking to amazing people who do way more than I do in terms of finding shelter cats homes. So it doesn't mean just because I'm taking a few weeks off and the show will take a few weeks off from new episodes doesn't mean the shelter cats don't need homes. They always need homes. There will always be homeless cats that need homes. So adopt, don't shop. Thank you so much for your support, for listening, for everything that has made this just an amazing experience. I'm already so excited for season 2, and we'll see you for season 2 the first weekend in November. Have a great October and a great Halloween. Bye for now.